Hello, Tampa Bay fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show, your online radio home for Tampa Bay sports talk and Rays postgame shows. Stay tuned throughout baseball season for live coverage after most Rays games with comprehensive coverage of all 162 games from April through October. Got something to say? We'd love to hear it. Give us a call, internationally toll-free. 877-566-1020 or send us a tweet at WHBC Official. Don't go anywhere. Tonight's program will be starting in just a couple of minutes.
HBC. The losing streak is now to 4. It is a good evening to you, and how you be. William Haynes here, you there, here on this early Wednesday evening at 4:17. This Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show is live from the WHBC studio in Tallahassee, Florida. Yes, it is another L going down in the books for the Rays. Today, it was a 9-2 loss at the hands of the Boston Red Sox. The Rays, of course, looking to avoid the sweep after a heartbreaker of a game last night where they got walked off on. Really not much to say that we did not say last night. This team is in a funk in all aspects. The offense, obviously, as seen by the amount of runs scored, is not in midseason form just yet, still sputtering in that regard. The pitching has not been very good. We thought Ryan Yarbrough was going to be at least one of our two good starting pitchers, and he comes out today and puts out a dud. We thought that there was some potential for that. Of course, Yarbrough, kind of the soft pitches crisscrossing the plate, usually generates weak contact, and he was going there for a little bit through the first 3 innings scoreless, and I think faced only one over the minimum through the first 3. And then as we saw, the second and third time through the lineup, all these power hitters for Boston were able to do what they do. For Yarbrough, over his 5 innings of work, gives up a total of 9 runs, only 6 earned on 9 hits, a walk in there as well, 2 strikeouts. Throws 89 pitches in the process. And if you wanted to really point out maybe a silver lining or a bright spot, Colin McHugh, after having a really, really rough season debut in Miami on Saturday night, comes through today in mop-up duty with 3 innings scoreless, giving up only 4 hits over that process, no walks, 2 strikeouts. And with Colin McHugh, I think it was great that he played well, but I'm hoping for the Rays' sake that he's not going to have to keep pitching in mop-up duty, because I know they brought him in to play somewhat of a significant role, and he was basically just getting the Rays through their game. And again, you go to Boston, you lose all 3. It is rough all around, and what I have yet to mention is just how poor really the defense has been playing. You compare them maybe to an average team, and it doesn't look quite that bad. But with the Rays, everyone always says, they're built on pitching and defense. This is how they're supposed to win games. Well, that means sometimes making plays that aren't routine, making plays that you're not supposed to make, taking hits away, all those things. And Yoshi Tsutsugo The first base experiment right now is failing. The outfield, I had a couple of miscues, I believe. Again, the infield, defense all around was poor. They were actually able to turn 3 double plays over the course of the game, but I think they left another 1 or 2 on the field. I know there was one where Yoshi Satsugo couldn't even get the lead runner, let alone double play, and if it wasn't for some ballerina-type tiptoe footwork from Yarbrough, they wouldn't have got any outs on that play. And I know Yoshi had a nice, I think, backhanded grab there late in the game when the score was well out of hand, so I don't know, maybe something to bring his confidence up. But by the way, he's hitting 118 on the season. He did drive in his first run, an RBI single in the third, so we thought maybe that would be his chance to turn things around, but not really the case. Again, they have the off day, do the Rays tomorrow, so they'll get a chance to kind of regroup, but they're going to need to get their crap together in a hurry because the team right now, I think that if they're not now, they will be by tonight. The first place team in the American League East in the New York Yankees, they're coming into town to Tropicana Field Friday through Sunday, and the starting pitching certainly is not lining up well for the Rays. It'll likely be Hill, Archer, and Waka against Kluber, Herman, and Montgomery, and we'll preview those games towards the end of the show, as we'll be off on this program until Monday night, and we'll catch you up on all that, of course. So at this juncture, what we're going to do, allow some calls to roll in. If you want to call in and talk Rays, certainly you can do so. The number to call is 877-566-1020. We're going to take a couple-minute break and get the show rolling. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Rays postgame on the William Haynes Show. We're live most nights within 15 minutes of the final out to break down everything that happened in that day's game and take listener phone calls to get your thoughts. As always, you call the show at 877-566-1020 or tweet the show at WHBCOfficial. Like you to remember that archives of previous shows can be found on this show's page on Speaker.com and also on the WHBC YouTube channel. We look forward to having some of you on the show. Thanks for calling in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 4:24, we return on this Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show. Again, if you're just tuning in to talk Rays, certainly you can do so at 877-566-1020. We continue to talk this afternoon's 9-2 loss to the Boston Red Sox in the getaway game. But getting into this afternoon's contest for the Rays, it was just 2 runs on 5 hits, 1 error for them. And then for the Red Sox, it was, of course, the 9 runs on 13 hits, no errors defensively for them. And for Boston, the former Ray, Nate Eovaldi, pitching a gem, 7 innings, just 1 run allowed, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks. He was making Rays hitters look foolish, basically, from the first inning all the way until he was done in the 7th. So not a good sight to see. There was certainly potential for that to be the case. Eovaldi is still really good at this point in his career. Throws 97, 98, even 99 a couple times, and a nice curveball and slider. And Rays can't seem to catch a break as far as the starting pitchers that they're facing. They just seem to be struggling right now against everyone. And then for the Sox, it was just Josh Taylor and mop-up duty, I guess, in their own right, getting 2 innings and 1 run allowed over that course. And then for the Rays, getting the loss, it was Ryan Yarbrough, again, 5 innings, 6 runs, 6 earned runs, 9 total allowed on 9 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and a home run allowed for him. Christian Vazquez for the Sox struck again in a 2-hit game for him, and 3 runs batted in as well. So he's been a Rays slayer here early. And then Colin McHugh, maybe the only bright spot in today's game, save for a couple of hits for the Rays. 3 innings pitched of scoreless ball, 4 hits, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Looking at the lineup that Cash sent out into Fenway Park this afternoon, the defense first. I know they had to kind of shift some things around with all the injuries that have been happening as of late. It was Austin Meadows in left, Manuel Margot in center. In right field, it was Randy Arozarena, and then in the infield from third to first, Joey Wendell at third, Willie Adames at shortstop, Lau at second base, and Yoshi playing first. It was Francisco Mejia doing the catching, and the designated hitter throughout the game was Yandy Diaz. And late in the game, when the score was out of hand, Cash was able to get some guys out of the game. Wendell was lifted for Padlo, who actually got on base for the first time in his career and worked a couple of walks in his 2 plate appearances and just slotted right into play third base. And they did some maneuvering in the outfield as well. They took Margot out of the game in the 7th and put Barroso out in the outfield. They took Mejia out of the game at catcher and put Joe Odom there, and he struck out for the final out of the ball game. And those were the only moves, and so Randy had to move into center field and Barroso out to right in order to get Manuel Margot out of the game. I wasn't sure that they were going to do that because I thought Margot was the only guy that they felt comfortable out there in center field. I don't think we've seen Randy in center yet. This was, I think, his first time out there, and but it was inconsequential, I think, to say the least, and at what was at that time a 9-1 ball game, so it just didn't really matter. Also, I was very surprised that Randy Arozarena was even playing today. It looks like certainly he's been dealing with some issues with, either his hand or his wrist or whatever's been going on, an issue that's been lingering since the middle of spring training. I thought this would be just a good opportunity to give him a day off. I know the team has a day off tomorrow, so maybe that's going to be enough. And I know it's been eventful, to say the least, for Arozarena out in right field. Some really nice catches 2 days ago, and was not able to secure the game-winning catch last night and allowed the Red Sox walk-off. So he ended up being in the lineup. It looks like even when the Rays are struggling, this is a guy that they're going to look to lean on, and he goes 1 for 4, but does get his first extra base hit. It was a double to lead off the 9th inning, so I guess good for him in that regard. He finally got a first pitch fastball to swing at, and it certainly Major League Baseball has learned their lesson as far as how to pitch to Arozarena. At this point, he's batting right at 300 and an OBP at 364, so really one of the only bright spots. I know the sample size is very small. Yes, I know we're still in that time of year. The Rays have only played 6 games, but you look at the batting averages down the rest of the line. Margot is also batting 300, but then a lot of guys under the Mendoza line. Yoshi 118, Meadows 182, Yandy's batting 158. So, and I know batting average is not the only stat to look at, and a lot of people don't like batting average, but I think it's one of the quickest and easiest ways. Either a guy's hitting or it's not. Usually a guy that's batting 118 isn't going to have a super high OBP or slugging or OPS anyway, so it doesn't really make any difference. So that's going to be one of the things. What's so frustrating right now, but also you could put a good spin on it, is there's no one thing with this Rays team right now that you point to and say, all right, they clean this one thing up, they'll be back in the win column, and they'll be going along doing their thing as they look to defend their American League title. No. Every aspect of the game right now is extremely poor for this Rays team, and they're going to have to pretty much fix all of them if they look to get this thing turned around. The lineup is performing poorly. The runs aren't coming right now, and they've been really bad with runners in scoring position. They went 2 for 8 in that regard today, so those struggles continue. They left a total of 6 men on base. The starting pitching has been porous outside of Tyler Glasnow. It looks like he's really the only. That's not fair to say that he's the only capable guy, but certainly you put Ryan Yarbrough down a peg as far as how we're currently viewing him. 6 runs over 5 innings. I suppose not as bad as it's not as bad now as it looked as it was happening, certainly because, as I said, he was only one over the minimum through 3 and had not allowed a run, and then gave up 3 in the 4th, and then where it all fell apart in the 5th inning, I believe only gave up 2 runs there, and then the error for Adames that kept things going and allowed another 3 runs to score. So not that the game would have been any different if that error had not occurred, but certainly this, the score would have been a little bit less, but not like the Rays were going to come back anyway. So 9 total runs come across the score, only 6 earned for Yarbrough. But again, you look at Yarbrough, you look at Rich Hill, Chris Archer, Michael Wacha, none of those have done well their first time through the rotation. And now as we look, the lineup is flipping through a second time, and now that Glasnow and Yarbrough starts are out of the way, it just happened to be this way that those 3 games against the Yankees are going to be against those 3 starting pitchers, and we'll see how that goes, unless the Rays decide that they want to move Glasnow up in the rotation, because it will be on 4 days rest. They could pitch him Sunday afternoon against New York, but I would imagine that they'll just have Wacha there because there's just really no reason not to mess up the rotation just for that game. I know the Yankees are going to be taking that series incredibly seriously because of how open and salted, I guess, those wounds from the ALDS a season ago still are. So not a good combination. A Yankees team that wants revenge against a Rays team that is looking very poor and are sending out some not very good pitchers. And then you look at the other facets of play. The defense has been poor. They have not been making those plus plays more times than not, and they've even failed on some routine plays also. So that's not a good sight. And I think maybe you could argue that's the most concerning thing, but also on the other side of that coin, probably the easiest out of all those things to clean up. And then the bullpen as well. Has not looked terrible, but certainly has not looked outstanding. I know they kind of saved the Rays' bacon at times last night. Andrew Kittredge with almost a miracle, basically how he was able to get out of that. I think Jeffrey Springs has looked fine, but Castillo, of course, with his first blown save last night. Fairbanks has not been able to have a clean outing. He seems like he's always having traffic on the base path, and that's not just in extra innings. And Ryan Thompson has had his fair share of struggles as well, not to mention all the injuries and people they have out in that department. Already 3 relievers going down, with Sheriff on the restricted list, and of course Chaz Rowe. A couple of days ago we found out he's going to be shut down for, it looks like, about 12 weeks, and with Nick Anderson, obviously we knew about that in spring training, but the outlook on him obviously is that we're not going to be seeing him probably until sometime in August, so they're going to have to get accustomed to playing without him. And we know the Rays love to lean on their bullpen, and if they're not there, then that's going to be a huge, huge problem, especially if this offense is not scoring runs, because as it looks right now, the pitching is poor, and the offense does not look capable of ever bailing them out. So where these wins are going to come from, at least in the near future, until maybe this team gets hot or whatever the case is. With all that being said, though, I think there's a lot of parallels to how this team is performing right now as compared to how they started the season last year in 2020. Of course, they had that nice homestand to open. They took 2 of 3 from the Blue Jays and 2 of 2 from the Braves. So they started off nicely in the win column. But then they had that 0-5 road trip, dropped both games in Atlanta, and then got swept. Their only 3-game sweep of the year in Baltimore. That was a 5-game losing streak. And they had the second best record by the time all was said and done in Major League Baseball, winning 40 games, going 40-20. But they were 8-8 at one point. I mean, it really took them a while to get going, and they were still able to win a ton of games out of that 60-game season. So definitely the hope is that this is just kind of a rerun of that. And watching the game today really reminded me of that sweep in Baltimore, where just the defense was failing to make routine plays, and nothing was really going right. I know Dave Will said on the broadcast today, that's what's so interesting about baseball, is when you're losing, it looks like your team will never win again. They just look awful. And then when they're winning on a winning streak, or they're hot or whatever, it seems like, they'll never lose again. So it really is just that easy. It is that simple to get that turnaround. I think while that Yankee series is going to be a struggle, and I know the sky will officially be falling, say if they get swept, losing all 3 of those games, I know that would just be an ultimate disaster. Not that I mean, it is still April, but just how strong the panic would be among the fan base. But getting home may be just what they need. I don't know, playing under that roof, playing in front of fans in Tropicana Field for the first time since 2019 of October that year, so maybe that gives them a boost as well. And after that Yankees series, they also have 4 games in 4 days against the Texas Rangers, who are not looking great. I think Nate Lowe may have not just a revenge game, but maybe a revenge series. But outside of that, Texas does not look great, as they actually are 1 out away from getting a win against the Toronto Blue Jays in a 2-1 game. So that's kind of interesting. But either way, to make a long story even longer, I suppose, is just this was really the same conversation we were having last night. Is just things are not looking good, and the light is not necessarily there at the end of the tunnel, but we know what this Rays team is capable of. I wouldn't accept any arguments that this team is significantly worse than they were last year. I mean, certainly they lost some guys, but the pieces are still there. They just have to perform. That's it at the end of the day. So it's just what it's going to take to get them there. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take another break, allow maybe some calls to roll in, and then we'll really get into this ball game, everything you need to know about it, maybe in somewhat of a timely manner, because I know everyone, including the team, is looking to put not just this game, but this whole series and really this whole road trip behind them. So, again, number to call, 877-566-1020. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, Rays fans, William will be right back. We're in a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us internationally toll-free at 877-566-1020. Or tweet us your thoughts at WHBC Official. Also, we'd like you to stay tuned for William's other podcasting projects at speaker.com/user/WHBC.
Sports Radio 1019 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 4:38, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Once again, number to call the show, 877-566-1020, as we continue to chat about this afternoon's 9-2 loss to the Red Sox. Going through, I know I already told you about the lineup and all those things, and now we'll go down the line and tell you how they did. Yoshi in the leadoff spot, he goes 1 for 4 today with an RBI single, also struck out once, and as I mentioned again earlier, the average down to 118. He grounded out to the first baseman to start the game, and it just seems like, I swear that half of his at-bats are ground outs to the first baseman. At least that's just how it seems to me. So I think that's just kind of funny. I wanted to take a look at how that at-bat actually went for Tsutsugo. It was a 3-pitch at-bat, so I didn't even necessarily do a good job of saying pitches, and the offense ability to produce in the first inning is certainly not there right now. I remember they loaded the bases on opening day and really have not been able to do anything since then, so that could be one way. That could be one simple fix to give this team a jump start. Not that there's really anything that Cash can do. Probably getting Yoshi out of that leadoff spot might be a good start. Put Meadows up there, and then have a Rosarena and maybe Yandy at 3, and then keep Lau in the cleanup spot. I think that would work, and then maybe you could see that get turned around. He had an RBI single in the third inning to give the Rays the lead, and that was a good sight for him. It seems pretty easy to get hits in this park. We've seen like so many bloop doubles and just stuff like that. I'm looking forward to getting back to Tropicana Field and getting out of Fenway. But it did have an RBI single there. It seems like Fenway Park has played more in the Red Sox favor than it has in the Rays favor, at least during this series. Struck out to start the sixth, did Yoshi, and then another ground out to the first baseman rather in the eighth inning, and that was his day. 1 for 4 with an RBI. It's not bad, but that's really the first time that Yoshi has had any success in that regard. So we'll see how that continues. In the 2 spot, Meadows goes 1 for 4 as well. No walks, no strikeouts, none of that. Lazy pop fly in the first, then flew out to right field with a man on first. Had a double with the bases clear in the sixth, so that was good to see. His first double of the year. We know he has the 2 home runs, and then a ground out to the first baseman in the eighth inning. Randy Arozarena. And then, by the way, let me also say about Yoshi, obviously poor play defensively at first base. I know he had a good play late in the game, but that error for Adames, that could have been scooped by Choi potentially. Not that you want to play that what-if game, but there was certainly no plus plays over there by Sasugo. And again, that play, there was a weak grounder where they could have turned 2 or maybe even just get the lead runner. And by the time all was said and done, they were lucky just to have the out at first. And to describe his performance, I think the best thing to say is that he just looks very uncomfortable over there right now. I know Kevin Cash has been trying to kind of prop him up in that regard, and everyone is speaking highly of him. But Yoshi over there at first base for the first time since 2014. So at this point, 7 years since he's been over there. So it just, I don't know. He hasn't looked really comfortable anywhere defensively with the Rays, whether at third base, at first, or in the outfield and left. So it's going to be tough to keep him in the lineup, especially if he's not performing offensively. So $7 million, and they're not getting a whole lot out of him as it stands right now. But moving now along to Randy Arozarena, he was 1 for 4 with a strikeout and also a run scored, grounded out in a 1-2-3 in the first, grounded out to start the fourth. He's been putting a lot of balls in play in hard liners or hard ground balls, so you like to see that. Sometimes they'll get through the hole and sometimes they won't, obviously. Struck out with a man on second in the sixth. So let's take a peek at that at bat, just the kind of pitches that he was seeing there. So struck out on 3 pitches, swung through a curveball, then fouled off a fastball, and then chased the slider there. That was when Evaldi was still on the mound. So a tough at-bat for him there. Not that it's too early to say, what Randy Arozarena's weakness is, but certainly better hitting the fastballs than the off-speed, and a rough at-bat there with a man in scoring position. And then doubled to lead off the ninth for his first extra base knock of the year. So good in that regard, and was fine defensively there today and moved into center for the final couple innings as well. Batting cleanup, it was Brandon Lau. He goes 0 for 2 with 2 walks and a strikeout. So kind of, as I said last night, the offense is passive in that regard. They're getting men on base, but they're not necessarily kind of initiating anything. They're just letting the game come to them, which I guess you could say is a good thing. They're seeing a lot of pitches. Some of these guys, like Brandon Lau, have been good at taking pitches out of the zone and getting walked. But there are times where a walk is not good enough and you need to get an extra base hit, things like that. But Lau 0 for 2 with 2 walks. He's off to a nice start, I think, certainly. You could say that. Struck out looking to start the second. Walked with the bases clear in the fourth. Walked with a man on second in the sixth. And that was what I was referring to. Looking at that at bat, it was a 4-pitch walk, and they weren't going to pitch. Evaldi wasn't going to pitch to him, so there's nothing you can do in that spot necessarily. But with a man on second and you're the cleanup man, I would prefer to see a base hit, but it just wasn't there. And if he's going to walk you, all you can do is just take it because they needed runs at that time anyway. So try and move the line, and then popped up in the ninth inning with a man on second base. So. He goes 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position in 2 opportunities here today. Batting in the 5 spot, Yandy Diaz, who was also the DH. So they got him off his feet defensively and all those things. A rough game for him, and what has become, a rough start. I think 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. His average is down to 158. Early, we've been noting that he has been putting the ball in the air, hard contact, all those things that we weren't necessarily seeing a season ago. And again, only 6 games into the season, but at a certain point, fly balls aren't going to be good enough. A fly out to center is no longer a positive. It's, let's start getting some hits. But obviously still taking that time to get settled in. Flew out to right in a 1-2-3 in the second. Struck out with a man on base in the fourth. Struck out with 2 men on in the sixth. And then grounded out with a man on second in the ninth. So he was routinely coming up in big situations. Went 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. And that seems to be the case as well. The guys that are performing the worst offensively always seem to be coming up in the biggest spots, whether it was Kiermaier, their early, Adames the same way, and Yanni Diaz as well. They're always coming up with men on base in big situations. Yoshi, it seemed like the same. And so I suppose when they don't come through, the failure is just magnified in that regard. And so he'll look to get things turned around. Would love to see him crush some baseballs against the Yankees this weekend. Batting sixth, that was Joey Wendell. He gets lifted after 2 at-bats in favor of Kevin Padlo, so we'll kind of do those guys together as they both played third base. Wendell 0 for 2 with a strikeout, lined out in a 1-2-3 in the second, and then struck out with a man on first in the fourth, and then Kevin Padlo working walks in both of his at-bats, or plate appearances rather, a leadoff walk in the seventh, and a walk with a man on second in the ninth. So Padlo showing some good plate discipline. It looks like his first 2 games, he's just looking to take pitches, which makes sense. I mean, I don't envy his position. I couldn't imagine how nerve-wracking it is to be making your major league debut and here in his second game and really wanting to make a good impression coming off the taxi squad. It's not like a traditional call-up. They just needed a guy for a couple of days. So this was a chance for Padlo to kind of leave his mark, and I think he's done fine thus far and has played a fine third base. Not a whole lot of opportunities over to him. So there you go, Padlo. Batting in the 7th spot, it was Manuel Margot, and he only had 2 at-bats before he was lifted, which makes sense. Unless Brett Phillips is ready to come back on Friday as soon as he's eligible to come off the injured list, Manny Margot is the only real center fielder they have, so they want to be careful with him. It looks like there was an at-bat, which would have been his second. I believe both of his at-bats were groundouts to shortstop, but he came up a little lame running through the play, and I wonder if maybe that went into the decision to take him out if he wasn't feeling his best. Certainly that makes sense to do so. It doesn't look like there's anything from Tompkin on Twitter, so that's just something to keep an eye on, as he was limping a little bit, and they need him healthy. He's batting .300 right now. He's been one of the bright spots offensively, but was not able to get it done. He came up to lead off both the innings in the 3rd and the 5th, so no big spots for him there. And then Mike Brasso, who came in and batted in his spot, grounded into a double play in the 7th, and then actually hit an RBI single for his first run batted in the 9th inning. So good for Mikey Brasso there in limited action thus far this season, and came in to play right field at the end of the game. Francisco Mejia was 1 for 3 with a run scored, no walks, no strikeouts for him. He continues to his nice start to the season. Had a double in the 3rd inning, and he was the first run of the game to come across the score. His first extra base hit as well. Grounded out to the first baseman in the 5th. Grounded out following the double play in the 7th, and then that was it for him. And then Joe Odom came in to play catcher in his spot, and then struck out for the final out in the 9th inning. And then finally, Willy Adames, the shortstop, batting 9th. I thought it was interesting that he was in the 9 hole after his struggles offensively a day ago. Came up in big spots as well today. It seems like, or sort of. He grounded out with Francisco Mejia at second base. He struck out in a 1-2-3 in the 5th, and flew out to right to start a 1-2-3 in the 8th inning. So ended up being 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position. And again, the team went 2 for 8 in that department, and that's one of the big glaring red flags as far as what it is exactly that's holding this team back. They've been able to get on base 4 walks today, which is a fairly high number, and only 8 strikeouts. So you look at those 2 numbers, and that's a good thing. But again, they're getting base runners left and right, and they're just not able to bring them in. So that's not what you want to see at all. So, and then again, Adames with that error defensively that basically cost the Rays, 3 runs, because I think the inning would have been over at that point, or maybe it was with 1 out. But either way, the error itself, I think, allowed 2 runs, and then Yarbrough was really struggling there at the end of his start. So that's definitely not what you want to see. If Adames is not performing offensively and he's hitting .211 right now, he needs to be stellar defensively, and today he was not. So that's it for the lineup. Looking at the pitchers, I know I've talked about Yarbrough already. 5 innings of 6 runs, 9 total, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. He threw 89 pitches, which I thought was interesting because he threw 66 his first start in Miami, and I wasn't sure how much they were going to bump up his workload, and he ended up throwing basically 90 pitches, so they tacked on, another 25 pitches or so, which I was surprised to see. There was talks that they wanted to get him through 5, maybe even into or through a 6th inning, but that disastrous 5th where the Red Sox put up 6 runs, that was just not going to be a possibility. So he definitely looked out of gas there at the end of his start, getting his first loss of the year. And again, whether it's the Red Sox, Yankees, Blue Jays, Astros, Dodgers, name your favorite power lineup against a soft-tossing lefty in Yarbrough, he's going to have some struggles, and his 2 starts against the Red Sox last year was kind of the same 5 innings of 2 or 3 runs, and that's what I had predicted for him today, and things just came apart a little more than that, and with the way the offense is playing, that was no contest at that point after the 5th inning where it was a 9-1 game, and obviously they weren't able to put anything together after that. Then the 26 men that Yarbrough faced, he threw a first pitch strike to 15 of them. For Yarbs, that's a stat that I like to look at because getting ahead is a big deal for him, and I think that's a fine number. 15 of 26, did a fine job with that, and I think just was not at his best. Dave Wills was saying on the broadcast, the old adage of starting pitchers is you're going to have, about 33 starts a year. 11 of them you're going to feel really good going into the start. 11 of them you're going to feel so-so, and then the other 11 you're going to be feeling not at your best. And it's how you do in those when you're not feeling your greatest is kind of what will define your season. I know Blake Snell has talked about that in his seasons with the Rays. When he would have a bad start, he would say in the postgame he could tell in his pregame warm-up in the bullpen that he just didn't have his stuff. It just wasn't as sharp or whatever. So maybe this was one of those days for Yarbrough, and it just came at a bad time. This was his 2nd start of the year. Really good start against the Marlins, and then a not-so-good start here against the Red Sox. So obviously he'll look to get things back on track. As it looks right now, projecting his next start rather, it will be against the Rangers at home. So I think we could see him get back in the win column and similar, maybe more to his performance that he had against the Marlins, and that would certainly be the hope. And then again, Colin McHugh in mop-up duty, getting the final 3 innings of work, no runs, 4 hits, no walks, 2 strikeouts. 45 pitches for him, 33 for strikes, was 7 of 11 in establishing the first pitch strike, so it really turned things around compared to his season debut in Miami, where he gave up a home run on the first pitch that he threw, and just had a rough inning all around. I think gave up 3 or 4 extra base hits in that inning alone, and that was his first time back since 2019. Had signed, of course, with the Red Sox prior to 2020, and then opted out because of I guess injury concerns. So I think the hope is that he's going to be a fairly big part of this ball club and the pitching staff, a guy that can start games, can give you multiple innings in the middle of a game, and the Rays certainly are going to need those guys, Josh Fleming, Trevor Richards, guys of those mold, and McHugh, the only one on the 26 man as of right now. So good to see him get things turned around. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think there's a whole lot of point in going inning by inning and looking at some of the stuff. I mean, it just was really hard-hit baseballs for the Sox off of Ryan Yarbrough, and then the defense behind him was not very good, which it has to be behind Yarbrough. He was getting ground balls, and they were not converting them to outs or to double plays as much as they could have, and that just adds to, the struggles for Yarbrough. So that's really the tale of the game, to be perfectly honest. Now we look ahead to the series against the New York Yankees. I'm not going to be on the air after any of these games, I'm actually going down to St. Pete, and I'll be at those games, including on opening day, where they'll be raising the banner and all those things. So I'm very excited about that, as I hope all of you are as well. Any of you lucky enough to go down and go to any of those games, and all day games, weekend series, just enjoy it. Don't worry about tuning into the show, none of that. But we'll be back on Monday night following April 12th, following the game against the Rangers. So we'll recap that Yankee series as well as talk about that night's Rangers game. So look forward to all that. So basically, with that said, we have to preview all three of the games that the Rays will be playing, and it looks like not official, but I think we have a good idea or can make an educated guess as to what the pitching matchups will be. On Friday afternoon at 3:10, again, opening day or home opener for the Rays, it's going to be the right-hander Corey Kluber against the left-hander Rich Hill. Both of them have made their first starts of the year. It is Corey Kluber, no decision yet for him on the year. In his first start at home against the Blue Jays, he went 4 innings of 1 run ball and 5 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. There were a total of 74 pitches, so it looks like the 34-year-old right-hander was putting some men on base via the walk. And there's one thing the Rays have been good at mostly. It's taking pitches and working their walk, so maybe that's something they could hold to their advantage. I know the talk about Corey Kluber, I know he held his own workouts as he was trying to get signed going into the season, and some scouts were just saying that he's just not the same guy. He's not really all that good, so there is a potential there that the offense could break through against Kluber. And then he didn't really pitch all of 2020. He had like 1 inning against the Rockies, and that was it for him. And let's see if he's played. He hasn't played the Rays anytime soon. So this will be the Rays' first look at him in quite some time. And going up against him, it looks like it will be Rich Hill, the 41-year-old left-hander, making his second start of the year. A no decision for him, his first time out in Miami. 4 innings of 4 runs on 5 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 71 total pitches for him. So maybe he goes 80, 85 pitches. I don't think that they're going to want the order to see him a third time through. So, it might just be 4 innings or whatever the case is, depending on how efficient he's able to be. I think it's a good thing that the bullpen is at least rested in this regard. So everyone got the day off today because McHugh got 3 innings after Yarbrough, and they get the day off tomorrow. So everyone, Castillo, Fairbanks, Thompson, Kittredge, Jeffrey Springs, you name it, maybe even Chris Mazza could give some length on maybe Saturday or Sunday. So everyone is ready to go. So that's another positive as well. The Rays aren't expecting these starters to go very deep, but the bullpen will certainly be ready. Whether or not they'll be effective is a whole nother question. So that's Corey Kluber versus Rich Hill on opening day. That'll be kind of interesting. Then on game 2 on Saturday afternoon, Domingo Germán going up against Chris Archer. Both are right-handers for Domingo Germán. He is 0-1 on the season. He did not pitch last year because of he was suspended for a domestic incident. So looking back to 2019, the last time he's faced the Rays, he had a couple starts against them in 19. On May 10th of 19 at the Trop, 5 innings, 3 runs on 5 hits. Then on July 18th, 6 innings, 2 runs on 4 hits. And that was it. And now looking to his first start of the year in 2021, it was at home against the Blue Jays. 3 innings of work, 3 runs on 4 hits, 2 home runs allowed, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 68 pitches, and he did take the loss there, obviously. So the 28-year-old right-hander, he's going to be gettable in that game, certainly. So that's a good thing. You miss Garrett Cole. He's, I guess, really the only good starter that the Yankees do have at their disposal as of right now. So, and then on the other side, Chris Archer, the 32-year-old right-hander, 0-1 on the season, a 13.5 ERA as of right now. His first time up, and it wasn't even a start. I think that definitely worked against him. He came behind Rich Hill in what was supposed to be a tandem start. 2 innings of work, 3 runs on 4 hits, a walk, 2 strikeouts, 52 pitches thrown. So maybe he gives them 3 or 4 innings out of the gate, and they're able to pair him up with somebody. It doesn't look like he's going to pitch behind an opener, which I think is a good thing. He's a starting pitcher. Let him start, and then go from there. But again, as with Rich Hill, maybe they don't want the lineup seeing him a third time through, so it'll be a short outing regardless. And it seems he's still getting stretched out, throwing only 52 pitches his first time out. So maybe we're talking 65 pitches. So it's not like they've got the rotation necessarily ready to roll here in this home series. And then in the final game, this Sunday afternoon matchup, it will be Jordan Montgomery, the left-hander, the only lefty they'll see in that series, against the righty Michael Wacha. Jordan Montgomery so far is 1-0 on the season. Looking back to 2020, he faced the Rays a couple times. If you'll remember, September 2nd, that was the game after Chapman threw at Brasso's head and the bench clearing incident. The very next day, the Rays chased Montgomery out of the first inning. He only got 2 outs there in that first, and what was supposed to be a full start for him. He gave up 4 runs in that inning on 5 hits, a walk and 2 strikeouts. And then in the postseason, in Game 4 of the ALDS, he actually performed pretty well. 4 innings of work, 1 run on 3 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. And then looking to 2021, his first start of the year was a couple nights ago in Yankee Stadium against the Orioles. So a lineup that's not fantastic. 6 innings of shutout work, only 4 hits allowed, no walks, 7 strikeouts. So he was sharp his first time out. They'll go heavy righties against him, like maybe they give Austin Meadows the day off maybe that day, or Yoshi the day off, so it'll be Yandy at third and maybe Brasso at third, something along those lines, or invert that lineup. And then on the other side, it is Michael Wacha, who is 0-1 on the season. Looking at his year last year with the Mets, he did face the Yankees 1 time. It came on August 28th. Only 3 innings of work in a 7-inning doubleheader game. 4 runs on 6 hits, a home run allowed, a walk, 7 strikeouts. So obviously not a great appearance. And then his first time out in 2021 in Game 1 of that series in Fenway against the Red Sox a few nights ago. 5 innings of work, 4 runs on 8 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. 90 pitches, though, so he is pretty much fully stretched out. They may let him go, 3 times through the order. Out of those 3, meaning Rich Hill, Chris Archer, and Michael Wacha, Wacha's the only one who I see going like more than 4 innings of work. I mean, he could go 5 or 6, depending on how things are going. And with the way the bullpen will be by Sunday, they may need him to get some innings. And maybe by then Colin McHugh could be back in the mix, or Chris Mazza to give some length maybe behind him. And Wacha has not been officially announced. I think Hill and Archer have. So with Wacha, he may pitch behind an opener as well. So maybe you have Cody Reed pitch an inning or 2 in front of Wacha, as they did in spring training. Thompson could open, Kittredge could open, whatever. That might very well be what would happen, because he was catching a lot of the plate, and those Red Sox hitters were punishing him. Again, 8 hits over 5 innings. So they may look to sort of protect him in that regard, which is fine. Or they may just entirely push Wacha down a spot in the rotation and just have Tyler Glasnow pitch, because it would be his, every 5th day, 4 days rest to pitch. But I would imagine they'll just favor the order of the rotation to have Wacha go and then have just Glasnow go the next day. But if they feel like they need Glasnow to go against the Yankees, he probably would be ready to do so. But I think it'll be Wacha, and most likely behind an opener. So we'll just have to wait and see about that. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up the show there. Did the wrong sound, my bad. So we will be back Monday night after the Rangers game. Maybe we'll have a monologue or something prepared, depending on how the series goes against the Yankees. They'll be hanging banners right in the Yankees' faces. That'll be great. Hopefully some of you guys get to go out to Tropicana Field. It's going to be a fun time. Hopefully the Rays can get off this losing streak. It's now at 4 games after the sweep in Boston. The day off tomorrow, hopefully they'll be able to kind of regroup and just get back on track. Certainly it'll be Hill, Archer, Wacha. Hopefully they can do good their second time around. We hope so. As always, we'll see you then. We'll talk to you Monday.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan,
HBC.
New York.